Regarding the story of Noach and the flood, I've read an article in the past that really hit home, and I think it's also applicable to the times we're in now. As the water levels from the flood were dropping, and the ark, the Teva, was coming back down to ground level, Noach sent out a bird to see if there was life, if the land was habitable, if it would come back with any signs of vegetation. And he sent out a raven, and it says that the raven went out of the teva, went out of the boat, vayitze yatzei v'shayiv, and it left but kept coming back, kept coming back until the land was dry. So that didn't work. It didn't go out to really search for life and dry land. So he then sent out a dove. And he sent out a dove, and the dove first came back with the olive branch, and then the dove settled, and that's when they knew the land was, the waters have calmed, there was life and dry land back on earth, and eventually they left the Teva following that episode. Now the question goes, why did Noach need to send two different birds? Why did he first send a raven? The raven experiment failed, and then he needed to send a dove. So the explanation and application of the point goes as follows. When a flood hits, when tragedy hits, or when someone is burnt, someone is living for something and it crashes on him, or someone gets beaten, or any tragedy hits anyone, that is a personal flood. And the response to that flood comes in two stages. Stage one is that toughens us up, even physically speaking. Someone gets a cut. That cut, as it heals, builds a scab or builds a scar, which is much more tough tissue in order to heal that wound. People start off life innocent, ambitious, positive, but when you get burnt or beaten, you come out tougher. You come out a little bit darker, more cynical, maybe with some vengeance, to try to counter the injustice of what happened to you. As we see this from many survivors of Soviet Russia, many survivors of the Holocaust. This is the necessary step one response to a tragedy. The problem is, that's not the ultimate response to the tragedy, as we see by the raven, that the raven would go and come. It was always still stuck in the needed to remain within the walls and confines of the ark, because it was always a immediate response to the flood. The raven represents darkness, blackness. The raven's the bird that gives the ominous warning, represents sternness. And this represents the stern response that we have to have when these type of things happen to us. And what's not complete yet with this stage of responding is that it is a dark thing happened to me, so I have a dark response to a dark thing. But the ultimate goal is I could actually completely get out of the darkness and now re-enter light, regain my life, regain my innocence, and regain my positivity and happiness again. Step one of coming back to dry land from the tragedy, come back to rebuilding a new life for Noach, had to start with the raven, even though that wasn't going to finish the job. But we had to be respected that stage one of coming after the tragedy is coming out strong, tough, calling out the injustice, and trying to make sure the injustice doesn't happen again. But stage two, to ultimately resettle and to rebuild a life again, you have to get out of as hard as it is, being the victim to a tragedy, and become an ambassador of light. To become someone that it's not about bad things happen to me and I'm here to counter and call out the bad. I'm now here to introduce real, fresh light. And that's represented in the dove, the light bird, the bird that represents peace, and as Chassidus explains, the bird that represents love and kindness. There's a famous story of Elie Wiesel, who was a Holocaust survivor and who lost a lot of faith in humanity and in Hashem for some time. And he went to the Rebbe. He never planned on building a family. He went to the Rebbe on Simchas Torah, and the Rebbe brought him close, was makar of him. The Rebbe said, I want to give you a bracha. He said, please. The Rebbe said, I want to give you a bracha to begin anew. And the Rebbe encouraged him to get married, rebuild a family. Trust that life could be good again. And the Rebbe actually, for his wedding, sent him a bouquet of flowers. I think this lesson is applicable to Yidden worldwide. Right now we need to respond like a raven. Right now we've been beaten. Jews have been beaten, massacred, and we need to call that out and respond strong. We need to respond very strong, call out what happened, and eradicate the evil. But we don't define ourselves by being people who eradicate evil. Yidden are defined as people who bring goodness to the world. First we come out with a raven, and after we come out with a raven successfully, now we come out ultimately with a dove. And refind our faith, refind our innocence, refind our gift of elikus, Torah, righteousness to humanity. And that is the ultimate stage of healing from darkness. Chassidus, generally speaking, brings two stages of dealing with darkness. One is called iskafia, bending the darkness, noticing the darkness and bending it, and one is when you ultimately turn that darkness into light. These are the two phases we have to do in our own lives. These are the phases we have to do as the Jewish people collectively. And may we see the ultimate light. Even before the raven fully comes out, may we see Mashiach and have immediate healing to our collective wounds, to our individual wounds. Have a great Shabbos.